1939, Los Alamos, New Mexico. Project Manhattan, aka Trinity Test. Early 1940s, the world's most brilliant minds gathered in the arid desert of Los Alamos to initiate the Manhattan Project. They were motivated by a single pressing objective: unmatched power and complete efficiency. They were so successful in producing a device so potent that it altered the path of history in a single afternoon, which was after the day of Hiroshima. But nonetheless, Mr. Oppenheimer had left a quote. He left a cool saying of that I believe it's I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. Honestly, when we look in today's narrative, and we are currently standing in our own Manhattan Project moment with the sudden and total explosion of generative artificial intelligence in higher education. We've built a tool that can automate the human mind, and while it's undeniably cool to have a robot that can literally generate essays in entire seconds and analyze things that would take most people years to do, we have to ask the same haunting questions those atomic scientists ask themselves. Just because we can do this doesn't mean we should, or are we accidentally building something fundamentally harmful to our own intelligence?
Well, in just about 3 years, the entire world of college has been flipped upside down. You know, back in 2023, when using artificial intelligence, it was kind of a niche thing that only a few people did. It wasn't too popular. But now, in current day, in 2025, that usage just shot up by 41%. It wasn't just a slow change, it was like a sudden explosion that had brought a ton of academic integrity issues and completely changed how we as students, even looked at our homework. For a lot of us, these tools are a bit double-edged swords. On one hand, it's incredibly efficient, like a super tutor, that explains hard physics problems or broke a code in 2 seconds. But on the other hand, they require a threat to the struggle that's always been the heart of learning, which is going through the hard part, and having the struggle and building. Our brains are often picky, and we only remember the things that are hard to, understand. And if we don't go through the struggle to understand, then do we really learn? And the answer is no. Really start to dig in on the act one, which is the efficiency trap. When we oftentimes have assignments or there's a deadline coming up, and pushing that button for AI, the temptation, it's so easy. We often, a lot of times, we end up taking that source and we ended up going that way. But when we do that, what does it really cost us? Here's is the reality. Writing isn't just about submitting a file to Canvas, or it isn't just about submitting a done line of code or a big paper essay. Writing is thinking. Traditional educators are already watching this collapse in full time. Take veteran English teacher Adam Patrick Miller in his recent piece for the Chicago Tribune. It's called Opinion AI Essay Feels Like the Death of American Education. In his essay, he describes the experience of reading AI-generated student work as feeling gross and oily. Why? Because he realizes that the student didn't actually do any mental lifting. When we rely on AI to structure our arguments or find our sources, we are outsourcing our cognitive agency. We completely bypass the necessary friction required to learn, such as a writer block, or such as, having frustrations when writing or creating drafts or doing the messy edits. That's where the real work happens. When we outsource and allow these third-party devices such as AI and, anything else, it takes away our critical ability to think. If the ultimate goal of an assignment is to actually build your intellectual muscle and understanding the subject, generative AI isn't a bridge. It's a wall that prevents us from doing the necessary things to get to that point. Welcome to the Degree Factory. In the modern university, there is a growing pressure to see education as a transaction. I give the professor a paper, they give me a grade. I move one step closer to a job. It's an assembly line of credentials where efficiency is the only metric that matters. But when did college stop being about the transformation of a person and start being about the automation of a product? When we treat a degree like a purchase rather than a process, we fall into what I call, the efficiency trap. Let's look into the second resource that I used to conduct this research and come to my thesis. It's from the Brookings Institution, and it's called "Do AI Risk Outweigh the Benefits for Students and Schools?" And in the article from the Brookings Institutions, they warn that we are drifting into a wild west of lost learning. When we use AI to shortcut assignments, we aren't just saving time. We are literally destroying the effortful learning required for the brain to actually grow. To emphasize on how important it is for us to actually do the work and spend the time on the material rather than shortcutting it, our brain's cognitive agency is very similar to the way we build muscles. When we do the work, the long, hard grit, the not so enjoyable part of the process, we grow and we build literal pathways and systems that create understanding. But when we click a button, there's no effort, leaving all your muscles essentially to be untrained. Similar to that, your mind suddenly forgets everything because there was no true process of learning. The third source that I'll also use sheds more light on this. Look at this study by Herman and Laurel Steidel in the journey Educational Theory. They prove that there is a massive difference between knowledge and understanding. They also point out that a student can memorize all the facts for an autonomy quiz, but if they can't connect the systems together, they don't actually understand it. AI gives you the facts, but it steals the connections. And because our university exams usually just test for raw knowledge, Gen AI can easily pass 92.9% of higher education tests. It can deliver the product, but it skips the mind. If you cannot explain the why behind the what, you haven't been educated. You've just been processed. Because in this new era, the degree might be real, but the intelligence is artificial. To understand the full scope of this evolution, we have to look at the argument from tech innovators who view AI not as an intellectual shortcut, but as a revolutionary solution to the systematic educational barriers that we've had for a long time. Now, switching back to the educational side of things, which I know that you probably did enjoy the little montage, this guy here, his name is Salcon Ed. He did a TED Talk on how AI could save education and not destroy it. And in this TED Talk, he gave very, very high optimism of using AIs as tutors rather than something that immediately gives you the answer. Now, going into the video, I won't necessarily force you guys to watch it, but I will very much actually show you guys and break down and explain what Khan explains in this video. Now, Khan focuses heavily on Benjamin Bloom's famous 1984 educational study known as the Two Sigma problem. The data shows that an average student who receives personalized one-on-one tutoring performs 2 standard deviations above their peers, effectively vaulting from the 50th percentile to the top 98th percentile. Historically, elite one-on-one tutoring has been an economic privilege reserved for wealthy families. Khan argues that generative AI democratizes this advantage by actively acting as a personal tutor who has infinite amount of time, infinite amount of patience, and is on the go and ready to use at any moment. This version of AI tutoring is considered to be the Socrates for low-income students worldwide. However, a critical 2026 report from NPR exposes a massive psychological flaw in this automated dream. Senior educator researchers warn that unlike human instructors who challenges your assumptions and force you to confront errors, these large language models are inherently psychophantic. They are hardwired by their code and endlessly complain to always validate your perspective and to change their answers the moment a user pushes back. True cognitive growth requires what educational philosophers call friction, the uncomfortable experience of being wrong and working through a problem until your brain rewires itself. But a psychophantic bot eliminates the friction entirely. It doesn't teach you, it pacifies you. It tells you exactly what you want to hear, validating, intellectual laziness and trapping the student in an echo chamber of their uncorrected ignorance. From all the data we have collected in this act, this brings us directly to the empirical data compiled by academic researchers. In their comprehensive 2025 scoping review published in the Australian Psychologist, Sarah Halliday and her team investigated how generative AI could be meaningfully integrated into high-stakes university curricula, specifically higher education psychology programs. The data shows that AI has a clear ability to minimize a student's cognitive load by automating low-level mechanical tasks like formatting, structuring references, or cleaning up grammar. It frees up short-term mental bandwidth, but this convenience hides a massive trap. As the Brookings Institution report warns, when you constantly eliminate that cognitive load, you force students into a passenger mode. We have zero empirical data proving that our brains actually retain information when a bot does the heavy lifting. If we systematically outsource the friction of wrestling with complex ideas, our long-term mental stamina withers. We risk building a dangerous two-tiered future, an elite class who are paid to think critically and are paid to basically do what we do now. And we have the other side, which is where basically we have the underclass, or the poor people, the more unfortunate people, who will be trained to merely manage the machines. So where does this leave us? We cannot simply ban this technology, nor can we blindly surrender our minds to it. We have to realize that a university education is not an assembly line. It's not designed to optimize efficiency. And a college degree, it shouldn't be just a transactional receipt for completed tasks that we've done. It shouldn't be this way. We should change. It should be where it's measured by understanding, where the education isn't just about doing the things, but it's about the part where we learn the things. True intellectual growth does not care about speed. The physical and the psychological development of writing happens entirely within the struggle. The frustrating, exhausting friction of drafting, deleting, failing, and rebuilding an idea with your own brain is where it's all truly is. We have to treat generative AI exactly like a calculator, a highly restricted tool for sorting data, never a replacement for raw human thought. I am issuing a direct challenge to everyone, to all the students, to all the directors, to all the professors, to all the principals of every school that is watching us. It is time to rebel against the efficiency trap. Stand up and step away from the automated shortcuts. Stop using AI as a generative cognitive crush. Just like the atomic scientists of the Desert of Los Alamos, we have unleashed a power, a tool of immense, world-altering power. Now we face the ultimate choice. Will we be the absolute masters of the machine? Or will we be settling for its passive hollow servants? Personally, I refuse to graduate feeling like an AI did my thinking for me. I refuse to accept a bot as my personal tutor or as the very thing that has carried me through the most hardest and most critical moments of my life. I won't accept that. Disconnect the AI. Reclaim your own cognitive agency. Master your own mind. Thank you. I'm actually going to put this in. I'm not even going to edit this part. This part is actually the reflection. The outlook on, the assignment and exactly what I did. When doing this assignment was really, it was a big step for me. My teacher said all he really wanted was just a normal assignment that wasn't, necessarily too heavy. He just wanted something that was a person and then, the text describing everything. I decided to kind of go above and beyond and actually, show that a student could do great things and they can do good things if they put their mind to it. Actually wanted to, raise the curriculum of the class and show what I could do. I very much appreciate you, Professor McVicker, for being one of the greatest teachers of my entire life of living and actually experiencing the college experience. I am, a freshman, and I thank you for the experience you gave me. You saved me at my lowest, and I am like so thankful for that, honestly. I really don't got anything more to say, but I really hope that this video moved a lot of you guys, and if you stuck around to this part, I appreciate it, and I wish that you all have a great one.